If I can ask everyone to be on mute, that would be great. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's now 4:30 and I'm delighted to welcome you to the 2022 AGM of the George Eliot Hospital. The AGM is our annual opportunity to reflect on the past year and to be held to account by the public for the performance we've delivered over the past 12 months. This is self-evidently a virtual meeting. It is being streamed through Microsoft Teams. And in terms of etiquette, can I ask people to have their cameras and microphones off unless they're presenting or asking a question? The board and the public can interact through the chat function in this meeting. And if you want to ask a question during the AGM, please don't hesitate to do so. If at the end of the meeting we've run out of time, if you can leave your contact details, that would be great. And just remind people to be on mute, please. It just helps the acoustics. The meeting is going to be recorded, so please be aware that if you do ask a question and you turn your camera on, you will be recorded for public posterity, and any trademark issues you have with your image will be passed over. So if I can ask Ness to start the recording, that would be great. So we have apologies for absence from Sarah Collette, our Trust Secretary. We have an interesting series of things to talk about today. We'll go through the formal bits of the minutes. I then will do the annual IXL award winners, which is the highlight of the year, certainly for me in many regards. We're then going to have a look back on what's been a successful year for the George Eliot, and Jenny Northcourt is going to talk about our performance against our objectives. And we're going to have a Fab Friday presentation, which has been a fantastic initiative that we've introduced to the George Eliot over the last year. We'll then do the annual reports and quality accounts led by Glenn and Hack. Then do the annual report accounts and auditor's statement with Hack, and then we'll do any other business, and then we'll have any questions from members of the public. So without further ado, the minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of July 2021. If you weren't happy with the accuracy of those minutes as a board member, can you please raise a digital hand? Otherwise, I'll take them as an accurate record. And on that basis, we approve those minutes from last year. So we then move on to the IXL annual award winners. So we have two winners, an individual winner and a team winner this year. And what I'd like to do is to read out the nominations that we received for the two winners. And the first up is Doug Mead, and hopefully Doug is on the line. Just trying to see you, Doug, in the various different people we've got on the line. But you've been nominated by Dr. Grace Pink. So what Grace wrote about you is the following, Doug. Doug is not just a porter. He's a brilliant communicator with patients. And I've noticed on many occasions when he has talked to patients in a calm and reassuring way that has de-escalated their agitation. He shows compassion and care for the patients in A&E. There was an elderly lady who was confused and distressed on my night shift, and Doug sat with her briefly and calmed her down. He also spoke to a man with dementia who was agitated and walking off, which threatened his intravenous access. And again, he encouraged him to sit down so that I could effectively examine him. I cannot commend him enough on his enthusiasm for his job and also his ability to go above and beyond to help our patients. This is all on top of doing an excellent job as a porter. So Doug, I'm absolutely delighted you're our winner of the 2022 Individual IXL Award. And so I'd like the board to give him a virtual hand clap and say very, very well done. And then we've got our theatre team, who are the IXL Team Award winners, and they were nominated by Paula Quinn, our theatres manager. And what Paula wrote about the team was, the theatre team have continually worked hard over the weekends to work through the backlog of patients waiting for surgery. And we are now back in a reasonable position following the beginning of the pandemic. Staff have worked extra shifts, changed their off-duty, cancelled social arrangements, and literally staffed up to several extra lists per weekend. This includes anaesthetic, surgical scrub, recovery, and support practitioners. This is an outstanding achievement, and the theatre staff have given all that has been asked of them. There has been a knock-on effect with sickness due to some of the specialised scrub working 7 days a week to achieve the targets set by the NHS. But this has been managed and they've been supported back to work as soon as they are well enough. The staff remain committed to the George Eliot Excel values and work within them. And this has made a difference to the patients we've been able to treat so far. With the whole trust under pressure at present, I'm immensely proud of what the theatre team has achieved, and having staff like this who are always willing to go the extra mile is what makes my job as the manager so enjoyable. I know we've got Eileen on the call, and lovely to see you, Eileen, but on behalf of not just the board, but the citizens that we serve on those waiting lists, Eileen, can you take back to everyone our enormous thanks and appreciation? You are very, very worthy winners. I know the personal cost of a lot of the last COVID period for all colleagues, but equally I know there's a personal cost of getting into that backlog. But for our patients and those we look after, getting those backlogs down as quickly as possible is a real service to society. So Eileen, whole of the team, big round of applause. Thank you very, very much.
And I would just like to say thank you to Paula as well, because Paula is our linchpin and she keeps us all together. She's the glue that holds everyone together in theatres. And we are very lucky to have such a strong, resilient and approachable leader. And she's just amazing. And we all think the world of her. So,
oh, that's lovely, Eileen. Thank you.
Thank you.
She'll give you the $5 later.
Oh, I'm sure she will. She's not very well at the minute, so she's at home with hay fever, so she's not too good at the minute. So, but thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you. So we'll move on then to our looking back on a successful year presentation. So Jenny, can I hand over to you?
Yes, thank you very much. It's my absolute pleasure to commend this look back animation to you on the AGM. It tries to capture just some of the highlights that we've had as a team across all of our directorates that have supported some fantastic work in support of delivering annual objectives as a trust, and really does shine through with our Excel values and our sort of vision for delivering excellent care for our patients. So my colleague James is going to share the video for you today. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes and it just gives some of those highlights, and I hope it just gives you just a flavour of some of the fantastic work that's been done across the teams. Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of those highlights, and if I say that was just a selection of everything we had available, I think we should all be very proud, and I hope that it's just a show of all that appreciation to everybody involved. Thank you.
You're muted, Russell.
Technology, such a schoolboy error on the day to the AGM, so I apologise for that. Thank you, Jenny. That's a really fantastic video, and it does sort of show the way that George Eliot is accelerating in its transformation to be at the very best in terms of performance. And so, Glenn, over to you on the annual reports and quality accounts. So, Glenn Burley, our Chief Executive.
Are we not going back for a Fab Friday presentation from Jenny?
I thought we were, but I was hesitating because Jenny didn't lead the way.
Apologies, I was waiting to be invited. Sorry. Okay. So as you saw in the video piece, there was a snapshot of something called Fab Friday, which is an initiative that that Glenn has personally championed and has developed across the group, and has been led initially by Y Valley. I'm going to just do a quick presentation to explain what Fab Friday is all about, and hopefully we'll see lots more of the things that come through Fab Friday feature in future animations for the end of year. So I'm hoping this will share. Thank you. Just bear with me while I just try and share this. So I'm hoping that you can see my slides.
We can, Jenny, thank you.
Lovely. Okay, so Fab Friday. Fab Friday was a journey. It's a journey that started with Glenn wanting to ensure that we were really having the opportunity to celebrate and to really put ourselves on the map in terms of all the fabulous things that were going on, and really taking a real improvement lens to our organisation. And really building on our change, the national sort of change day, and our Excel values, and all the fabulous things that were happening within the organisation. And so we started a journey of developing our Fab Friday, but we wanted it not just to be about our change and transformation. We wanted it to be really part of linking in with giving feedback and learning and improvement, and ensuring that we were actually giving appreciation to our staff, because we know that there's such a big link between staff well-being and improvement, and ultimately delivering the best care we possibly can and excelling at patient care. So we started on this journey, and we came up with the concept of Fab Friday, and on Fab Friday it's a monthly event where we actually have the opportunity to just take a breath and celebrate the fantastic change and improvement that's going on across our trust, but also appreciate the people that are behind that change, and appreciate the impact that it has for people, and also recognise that sometimes changes don't go to plan, so we have fabulous failures, but sometimes we can learn from those just as much. So where are we on our Fab Friday journey? We've had a number of different events. We started back in February, and it's been slowly building, and we've had some fantastic contributions from across lots of different departments, so many that we've listed some of those there, but we've really sort of celebrated some clinical achievements. We've celebrated some achievements that in terms of workforce developments, in terms of financial streaming of doing things differently, and also things to do with our patients in terms of volunteering and the Serenity Garden. So we really have had such a phenomenal amount of things to share across such a lot of departments. We build this into a planning cycle to structure the way that we do this, so that we actually reach out and look for new things that are coming through, and we're just inundated with contributions from people, and it's been absolutely wonderful to see the things coming through. And then what we've done is also we've really tried to really build on the work that we've done. So all of the Fab Friday presentations are also in our library, so people that can't get to the meeting can come and see the fantastic contributions. We've now got an intranet page, and we also do the recordings as well. So we've developed and continued to develop the Fab Friday feeling. We also want to make sure that Fab Friday is not just about an end of the week Friday celebration, but is about something that we can take into our teams on any day and get that Friday feeling. So we've really taken that concept into our teams. We're building in terms of their attendance and who's invited, and we're pleased to say that we were actually joined by our patient groups as well on this Friday, the last time we ran this, and we're also building to have a partner event for one of our future Fab Fridays to reach out to place colleagues and actually make sure that all the collaboration effort that we're involved in and others support us with is recognised. We've had a lot of learning from this event, and we continue to learn, and we've been doing surveys and getting feedback, and we've been ensuring that we've connected it with CUSA and our IXL winners, and we've also now got a social media channel and Twitter, and we were actually tweeted by Virginia Mason, which was an absolute was great to see. So we're really getting out there. Everybody that takes part gets a personalised thank you card, which is made up of all the feedback that is received in the chat box, and these go down really well, and people really love to receive these, and it really does make people feel appreciated and that their work's acknowledged. So these are some of the examples of the thank you cards that have gone out to people. We've got an absolute jam-packed schedule coming up of all the things that we want to share with people, and we're building the profile of this. So we really do hope that you can feel the enthusiasm in the way I'm presenting our Fab Friday, and hope that some of you may join us in the future, either presenting or coming to listen and learn and share in our celebration of the fantastic change and improvement work that's going on, and the appreciation to our staff. Thank you.
No, thank you, Jenny, and it has been a great initiative. Some really great comments in the chat box with all of the executive team just emphasising how good an initiative this is, and building on the example of other parts of the foundation group. It just allows us to accelerate the learning even faster. So thank you for that, Jenny. Part of the great sort of work that's been going on despite all of the challenges of COVID and recovery. So I think now we are ready, Glenn, to move on to the annual report and quality accounts. So over to you, please.
Okay, thank you. So let's see, hopefully you can see my slides.
Yes.
So great to see the video earlier. So a lot of what I will talk about was actually captured in the video, but I'm going to take you through the annual reports and accounts that we set up for the year, and talk through some of my personal highlights and some of the things that are going on, and also looking forward to what we're going to be doing next. I start with some of the statistics, and I think despite the fact that we are moving out of COVID, we've still been extremely busy with COVID over the last year. But helpfully, the numbers have fallen year on year. So if you look at the stat around the number of patients admitted to hospital with COVID, it's down about 9% year on year. Importantly, though, those patients, the acuity of those patients has fallen significantly, which has allowed us to in effect restart lots of our services. So the statistics for other parts of our service have grown dramatically year on year. So if you look at our outpatient appointments, they're up 30% year on year. Our admissions, either elective or emergency, are up 67%. Our A&E attendances are up 43%. So huge amounts of activity, and real testimony to our staff that, as well as coping with COVID and still having to manage COVID separately from other activity, we've been able to restart and deliver some really impressive recoveries across the organisation. The annual reports and accounts are available in full on our website. And what I'm going to show you in a moment is also available on our website, which is a summary of all of the things that are in there. The annual report and accounts have to include certain things, but also we want them to include lots of other things. So there's lots of things in there, information about what's going on across the organisation, our strategy, our objectives. There's an update on the Coventry and Warwickshire Health and Care Partnership, which we formally launched in its new statutory integrated care system on Friday of last week, and we expect great things from that, which I'll come back to later. There's lots of achievements across the organisation. It's great to see George Eliot being recognised nationally and regionally for some of the excellence that we deliver. There's a performance overview in there. There's an ongoing commentary of what's happened relating to COVID-19. There's formal things like the statement of directors' responsibilities, the report from our independent auditors, Deloitte, the governance statement, the annual governance statement that sets out the way we manage risk, an update on equality and inclusion, and also our national NHS staff survey results, amongst many other things. And if you look at the highlights for the last year, well, many of those were covered in the video, as I said earlier. Firstly, the Staff Appreciation Week, which it was quite hard during COVID to find a point where we could say thank you to everyone. We decided to do that in November and recognise the efforts of lots of individuals and teams across the organisation, which was a great thing to do. We also continued with the COVID vaccination effort, 10,000 vaccinations delivered not only to our own staff, but also to health and social care workers that are working in our patch. Importantly, we managed to create some more elective theatre capacity, so 2 new theatres opened. They're supporting orthopaedics and general surgery. And the way that we tackle waiting lists has led to a situation where we are now offering mutual aid to other organisations nearby who've got longer waiting times than us, because we've been able to get that under control. We also trialled and continue to trial a groundbreaking new anaesthetic procedure to support total knee replacement operations, and that is proving to be effective and moving to a situation where those patients are managed on a day case basis from a previous several day length of stay. Our emergency department has really transformed over the last 2 or 3 years, and now is regularly one of the top performing hospitals in terms of the 4-hour standard across the Midlands. And we looked at this actually in this morning's workshop, and it's great to see that other trusts, much bigger trusts than our own, are coming to see what we've done at George Eliot and to learn from it and to take it back into their emergency departments. And then also our great volunteers, 16,000 deliveries of medication, equipment and supplies. So great to see what's happening with our voluntary drivers. If I consider it from a personal perspective, I would point to certainly the urgent care performance improvement. What we've been able to do is effectively manage flow and effectively contain urgent care for most of the year in its appropriate footprint. And that means that we are delivering the right care in the right part of the hospital. Those patients who can be treated on the same day emergency care basis come in and get their treatment and go home. And that means that we're protecting our elective beds. And so we've seen a strong recovery of elective care, significant investments in elective and diagnostic treatments. So the community diagnostic centre is being built and will be opening later on this month in its first phase, and will be further phases to come, particularly if that gentleman in the photograph there listened to what we said when he visited the hospital about the next phase investment. Also, if you look at the annual staff survey, which if you've heard me talk at AGMs before, you will know I always say is the most important indicator of performance for any trust. We saw significant improvements in our performance, and we were listed as in the top 5 of most improved trusts in the NHS this year. You've just seen Fab Friday. What I love about Fab Friday is it is something that we've learned from across the group. It's not about doing it exactly the same. So we've got Transformation Tuesday at Wye Valley. George Eliot took a look at that and said, we'd like to do it this way, and created Fab Friday, which is brilliant. And South Warwickshire Foundation Trust now have their Open to Change event also. So that allows us to share best practice, not only within the organisations, but also across the group. And that's what the group is all about, sharing best practice at pace. You've seen the Excel Award winners. What you saw earlier were those that won the national award, but every time we celebrate quarterly winners of the Excel Awards, it's great to share that with staff. The picture in the photograph is the opening of our Serenity Garden, which was just a few weeks ago, and it was great to get the Secretary of State for Health along to George Eliot to see the great work that we're doing, for him to talk about how he will take the learning from this into the National Dementia Strategy that's being published now, but also to see the great community effort that's resulted in the fundraising and the support and the brilliant facility that we have. Very recently, our endoscopy team, because of the investment over a number of years and the development of staff there, have become one of only 4 training academies in the Midlands. And as well as training new staff, they will also be the academy to train existing staff across the Midlands as being one of the best endoscopy centres in the NHS. And then importantly for me, one of the key things has been the way we've prepared ourselves to move forward into this new world, where we are looking more at integration within our system as the integrated care system I mentioned earlier commences now. We in Warwickshire North have got great relationships, and particularly credit to the way that David Eltringham has led on that, great relationships with our place partners. And so we're starting to be much more than just a hospital, and starting to concentrate on prevention and integration. And our objective is to keep people well. It's not necessarily to treat illness. People will become ill from time to time and will need the hospital, but our focus will be on keeping them healthy and living normal lives. So within that, we've set a plan for 22-23 in collaboration with our workforce, and it's got some main elements to it. One of the key things is to continue to develop our workforce to support their well-being, but also to ensure that we recruit the very best individuals to be working in George Eliot and give them the opportunity to innovate in the way that we've already demonstrated today. Quality improvement, a lot of that is focusing still on recovery, but we will need to prepare ourselves for recovery continuing over what will be another challenging winter, but George Eliot will be well placed to cope with that. We've put a big focus this year into sustainability, so we've signed off a green plan. We took an update on that through our board meeting earlier today, and it's been great to see the amount of passion amongst our workforce for making an impact on our local community and its sustainability. And then finally, but not the least important item on the list, is the integration work. So one of the great things about this morning's session was we looked at all the directorates within the organisation, but we also took an update from our out-of-hospital teams that are part of South Warwickshire Foundation Trust, but work directly in and around George Eliot. And it's great to see the level of integration that we've achieved. As I said earlier, the group is all about sharing best practice at pace. And despite the distances between us, particularly the distance down to our colleagues in Wye Valley, what we've been able to do through the group model is to seek out and improve services, and to look at 3 very similar organisations facing similar challenges and to get the best solutions through them. From next month, we move to a situation where on a quarterly basis, we will hold parallel board meetings with the 3 trusts, and this will allow us to share even more and to develop the group even more. But the group model isn't about creating one organisation. It's about recognising the qualities and the character and the values of the individual organisations that make it up. And George Eliot is very much at the heart of that. And so one of the great things for me this year has been taking good practice from George Eliot and taking it to Wye Valley and taking it to South Warwickshire. And that will continue over the coming year. So my final slide is just to say thanks to everyone. Thank you to our amazing workforce who have put up with significant challenges over the last 2 years and who continue to innovate despite managing COVID. It would be very easy for us just to concentrate on getting through COVID, but as you've seen already in this meeting, we have been able to enhance and improve services alongside that. And I would include within that our fantastic executive team and non-executive team, and the focus of the board in keeping the balance between managing the day-to-day and thinking strategically about how we're going to change services for the future. Our fantastic volunteers, our amazing League of Friends, the Patient Forum who help us to improve services, all of our partners that work in Warwickshire North, but also those who work with us across the system. And our very, very supportive community. We get lots of praise and encouragement, and indeed, if you look at things like the fundraising around the Serenity Gardens, their personal efforts to make that programme happen has been really heartwarming over the last year. So we continue, Chairman, to go from strength to strength.
No, thank you, Glenn. A really helpful summary. And as you say, quite extraordinary level of community involvement as well. And I can't thank the Patient Forum, League of Friends and all of the other volunteers, the work of the charity in making the George Eliot progress as strong as it has been. So any questions from members of the board to Glenn on the annual report and quality accounts? Please raise a digital hand. So we then need to approve the annual report and quality accounts. So if I propose the annual report and quality accounts, could I ask Anil to second the adoption of the annual report and quality accounts, please?
Yes, Chair, very happy to second.
Okay, thank you. So if you're not happy to approve and adopt the annual report and quality account and your board member, please raise a digital hand. That's great, thank you. So the annual report and quality account duly adopted. So we then move on to the annual accounts and auditor's statement for 21-22. So Hack, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll just share my slides. Can you see those?
Yes, we can, Hack.
Okay. Right, so no doubt it's been a challenging couple of years, and that's reflected in the numbers that I'm about to show you. So if we look at the financial position over the last couple of years, we can see that our income has significantly increased, and that's to do with the additional funding that we've been getting to manage COVID, but not only to manage COVID, but last year in particular to support recovery as well in terms of elective recovery. So we've delivered a break-even position last financial year, and we have done so for the last 3 years now. And that included delivering over £7 million of efficiency savings as well, which under the circumstances was a huge feat, and half of that saving is recurrent as well. So I think that's a really great achievement under some really difficult circumstances. But unfortunately, we didn't achieve our statutory duty to break even. That's because it's taken over a 5-year period. So even though we broke even over 3 years, there's a historical deficit, which in reality, under the current circumstances, we can't do anything about. So I think we have to take it as it is, and enjoy the fact and celebrate the fact that we've actually managed to deliver break even over the last 3 years under some difficult circumstances. But we did achieve the 3 other statutory duties that are set out within that slide. In terms of the audit opinion, we had a clean bill of health both on the audit opinion on the accounts and also on the value for money audit opinion as well. I'd also at this juncture like to thank everybody that's been involved in actually pulling the accounts together. It's a huge feat when you're trying to do that, as well as trying to do the month one position, and then we had to do a resubmission of the plan as well, and we had new auditors as well. So, and the new auditors were requiring a level of granular detail that we weren't used to with our previous auditors. So it did go to the wire, lots of hard work, but we still managed to get it all completed and submitted on time. So thank you to my senior team, but also others who've been involved in helping us to get the accounts done and audited. So a big thank you there, and I think it's a big achievement to get that done in really tight timescales. So I'm just going to briefly touch on capital investments. Glenn's already touched on some of this. So we had the theatres that came on stream in the previous financial year, but most of the spend and the funding arrived the year before that in 2020-21. So I haven't listed it on my slide here. So the big investment actually that happened within last financial year was phase 1 of the community diagnostic centre. So that is what you can see in the picture there, which it looked like a shell, but it's you'll be pleased to hear it's nearing completion. So it looks nothing like that at the moment. It looks absolutely fabulous, and it's due to be handed over to us at the end of the month. So I think that's a really good addition to our capacity, but also I think to our site, because it replaces some of the oldest buildings on the site as well. So again, a new modern facility for our patients, but also for our staff as well. And the other really important investment we made last year was in the refurb of the A&E department, and that's made a huge difference to the experience that the patients have within the emergency department, but also the experience that our staff have within that department as well. We have some really great feedback from patients and staff as to kind of the impact that refurbishment has had. So that was money definitely well spent. And other elements that we've spent money on replacing equipment and our IT infrastructure, as well as on our estate. So I think some really big investments there, and we continue to be successful in terms of bidding for additional funds to improve our estate and our assets. So looking forward to next financial year. So we've submitted a break-even plan, and that will require us to deliver efficiencies of just over £8 million. So that's still going to be a significant challenge again. Reasonably confident we can do that. And there's some key priorities I've listed in the slide, which I think Glenn and others have touched on, which will be key to us delivering that position, but they're all the right things to do for our patients. So I think the key message really here is if we do the right thing for our patients, the money will follow, and that's the approach that we've been very much taking over the last few years. And the major capital investment for this year hopefully will be in phase 2 of the community diagnostic centre, which will involve adding a second story to the building I showed you earlier on, and that's nearly a £10 million investment, most of which we will look to spend in this financial year. So again, we haven't got approval for that yet, but we are on the way to actually getting our business case submitted. So hopefully we'll get approval in the next few months. So that will be another great addition, and hopefully we'll be able to deliver that by the end of this financial year. So I'll stop there, and I think it's been a difficult year, but I think some great achievements, as Glenn's highlighted, but those are also reflected in the financial position as well.
No, thank you, Hack. And as you've indicated, really good news to get that level of investment into the George Eliot. But we shouldn't underestimate what a difficult year this will be to break even, given the likelihood of a bit of a resurgence in COVID, the challenges of inflation. So lots of headwinds against us. It's not, even if we achieve the efficiency savings, there's still lots of headwinds. So any questions from members of the board to Hack on the annual accounts and auditor's statement? So we need to adopt these. So I will propose the adoption of them. Can I ask Julie Holder, as our chair of the audit committee, to second them for me, please?
Hi, Russell. Yes, very happy to second the accounts and to acknowledge all the hard work. No,
thank you, Julie. So if, as a board member, you are not happy to adopt the annual accounts for 21-22, please raise a digital hand. So that duly adopted. Thank you very much. So I think in summary, from what you've seen from Jenny, Glenn and Hack, it's been another year of real progress for the Trust. Still more to come. We recognise the challenges that we have in terms of driving down those waiting lists for our citizens who have been waiting too long because of the COVID pandemic to receive the treatment that they require. So that is very much the focus of the board. Any other business from board colleagues? Before I go to questions to members of the public, please raise a digital hand. There's just one piece of any other business for me. Today is the last board day for our Chief Nursing Officer, Dowjit, who's going to be Chief Nursing Officer at the Birmingham Women's and Children Hospital. On behalf of the whole board, Dowjit, and at this AGM, which is your last AGM, we can't thank you enough for all of your hard work and commitment to serving the population that we look after to the best of your abilities. You will be much missed, and Birmingham Women and Children's Hospital are extremely lucky to have you. So thank you very much. And my other piece of any other business was just to come back on some of the really helpful bits of questioning and challenge we've had during the last year for members of the public. One I'd particularly pull out is from Councillor Condicott and his challenge to us as to why we can't do more, for example, on solar energy as part of our sustainability plan. So we are going back on that. But it is good to have members of the public at our board meeting and to challenge the board in those areas that they feel we can do better. We recognise we're on a journey of transformation and improvement, but I think members of the public can be assured that we are doing a good job, or the frontline colleagues are doing a good job. So, any comments or questions from members of the public? Please raise a digital hand if you'd like to say anything, and I will invite you to come forward. So first of all is Natalie Mills.
Natalie Mills, Chair of the Patient Forum. Congratulations on such a successful year in the achievements in transforming services for patients that you serve. You haven't mentioned midwifery. I wonder if you could share anything around what's happening there in relation to the Ockenden report and how this has impacted on the service.
That's great, Natalie, and thank you for all, as we've said a few times, for all of the work of the Patient Forum. Just before I invite Dowjit to say a few words on midwifery, I would just like to emphasise that the board quite often say that the two most important things we do as a trust is to bring life safely into the world and to assist life to leave this world with dignity. So the Ockenden report is a very important report for the NHS, but there's been a proud heritage of maternity services at the George Eliot, and I'm extremely proud of the team and all they do. But Dowjit, just with respect to Ockenden, can you give members of the public some assurance about the safety of our midwifery services at the George Eliot?
Absolutely, thank you very much, Chair. So the Trust is very much cited on both the Ockenden 1 and the Ockenden final report, and has got a very robust action plan against all of those, of which many of the actions we have already progressed. This is evident in the recent CQC visit that we've had, in which the CQC have spoken to staff. They have triangulated all of that with the evidence we have sent to them, and they are assured to the extent that they are not escalating maternity services at George Eliot and will continue to monitor routinely as they will with any other service. In line with that, I'm also really proud to say that we're probably one of very few organisations in the country that are about to, recruit into our midwifery posts. There's not many organisations that can say that, and that's because we provide high standards of care, safe care. We look after our staff and the women and the families that come to visit us, and that's evident because people want to come and work with us. We've continued to provide really good one-to-one care, which is evident in our reports. Our birth rate to midwifery, our midwife to birth rate is 1 to 26, 1 to 25, and all our women who are in labour receive 100% one-to-one care. They are really all good, really outcomes, and it's also evident in the feedback that we get from our families and the women that use our services. So I think all of that provides really good assurance to our communities and the people using our services that our care is safe and of high quality.
Thank you, Daljit.
Thank you.
And David, your hand went up, but I see it's gone down. Did you want to ask a question or give a perspective?
Thank you, Chair. It's excuse me. It's really just to thank all the staff at the George Eliot for the incredible achievements that they've managed in a very difficult year with COVID coming and going and coming again, I feel, and some of the exceptional reporting on ED, for instance, and I just want to say on behalf of all the patients within the catchment area, thank you very much to the executive team and to all other staff members. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you, David, and thank you for your work over the years with Natalie and others, and in the patient forum. I'd also like just to thank all of my board colleagues, and Glenn in particular as chief executive, and the non-execs. We said goodbye to two non-execs during the year, Glynis Washington and Rebecca Khan, and I'd like again just to put on public record my thanks to them. But it is great to have Sarah, Uma and Rosie joining us today for the journey going forward. Keith, you've got your hand up. Over to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the maternity because it's one of our success things, and we quite often get criticism when people die. It's always difficult, but we probably bring in 1,500–2,000 people into the world at the George Eliot, and because it's such a good centre, I think it's drawing in people from a wide area. And I was looking at your monthly stats, and I think it was 208 births in March, which is very high compared to what it has been, and a very positive feature. So I obviously criticise things a lot. That's my role as an opposition councillor, but it's nice to have some good news and some positive stuff. The other thing I was just going to ask about was the future of hospital radio, because there was some questions about how that's going to be developed as the estate moves on and things. So if someone could just tell me about that, because that's another area that's quite unique and quite busy in Nuneaton and Bedworth. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. And you know, I think there are many things we could have talked about beyond what we did talk about. But like I said, on our maternity services, I'm incredibly proud as chairman of the board in our maternity services, and the whole team do a great job there. David, regarding the hospital radio, or Glenn's put his hand up. So, Glenn, did you want to answer the question on the hospital radio?
Yeah, I will let David come in on that, but 2,223 babies were born at George Eliot last year, just in terms of that stat. So as you quite rightly say, Keith, that's been increasing actually year on year as the population grows. I know the hospital radio has been off-site and innovating in the way that they've delivered their service over the last year, but they certainly spoke to me when we had the Serenity Garden opening about how they're keen to get back on site. So, David, do you want to give us an update on where we are with that?
Yeah, so we are considering how we use some of the space that is currently occupied by hospital radio, because it's on the 4th floor of the maternity block, and that's an area that we're considering developing to improve it and make it accessible from an open plan office space. So we are in discussion with hospital radio about their future in terms of being based here on the site. A lot of what they do actually is now done online, and they don't really need as much space as they've traditionally had. So the important thing is that we work with them. We're absolutely committed to continuing to work with Anchor and to have them working with us, and it's just about how we make sure that we have got an agreement as to what that looks like going forward. So we'll work with them on that, but absolutely committed to working with them, and I'm sure there will be some space for them somewhere in the hospital, and they'll be able to do all of the wonderful things with new technology that they've been doing all the way through COVID.
Thanks, David. And Marion.
Hello there. Fabulous work in the George Eliot. We all appreciate that.
We also appreciate the pressures there are outside of the hospital with home care and that. How is that impacting still on your discharges at the moment? Are you having problems? I know we're having problems in the community with our residents. I just wondered how it's coping at the moment.
No, it's an absolutely key issue, Marion. Glenn?
Yeah, this morning we looked at some of the things we're doing to try and improve the situation. Obviously, it's key for us to make sure that as soon as a patient is ready to go home, they can go home, or if their home is their care home, or if they need domiciliary care to support them at home, all of those services are there. So part of the new way of thinking in integrated care systems is for us to take more responsibility to make sure those services are in place. So across Warwickshire, we're working really closely with Warwickshire County Council, South Warwickshire Foundation Trust, and our community teams to make sure that we can improve the workforce situation for that group of staff. And we're about to look at some innovation to improve that. As of today, there are a number of patients in the hospital. David probably who else can give me a stat on that? Someone might be able to give us a stat on that in a moment. Robin will probably give us the stat on that. But the numbers aren't as great as they were in the height of winter, but we are not seeing the kind of flow that we normally see this time of year. So it is still a problem for us. And there's been kind of 2 or 3 wards worth of patients that are in the hospital who shouldn't be there. Robin, have you got a current stat?
Yeah, we've got 61 patients in the George Eliot that are currently medically fit for discharge that ultimately could be cared for elsewhere. Obviously, our focus is very much on the home first principle, trying to make sure that patients get back to their home environment as quickly as possible. That's really crucial to us. And as Glenn said, working with system partners and the County Council to ensure that we are supporting collectively that effort in order to provide the ongoing care needs that our patients require.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that every day someone's in hospital when they don't need to be costs roughly £300 a day. It costs roughly £2,000 a week to keep someone in hospital with sort of normal staffing levels. That £300 a day compares to probably £30 a day if they were having domiciliary care. So the saving to the system of getting people home with a social care or domiciliary care package is a no-brainer, and you know this, Marion, like we do. And it is the real thing that the integrated care systems need to deliver on. They need to close this ridiculous loop, which means people, roughly 25-30% of our beds are wasted, are held up by people who should be at home. And the consequence of those beds being blocked, even for a day, is it puts strain on our theatres and our elective work. And even though we've invested a lot of new theatre capacities, and we're doing a lot what we call Operation Ring Fence to protect our elective work, we do need to avoid this nonsense of people being in the wrong place in the system. Glenn, did you want to come back and then think how to find it?
And every day someone spends in hospital that they shouldn't be there, there's a risk of an infection or a fall or something to happen to them that means that they need to stay into hospital longer or potentially never go home. So we're really focused on getting people home because it's the safest thing for them. And as Russell said, as well as freeing up capacity to treat other patients. Yeah.
Marion, did you want to come back?
Thank you, Russell. I totally agree. I mean, I helped somebody from the George Eliot go home 2 years ago when she was 100, and I visited the other day when she was 102, and she's still sitting in her chair and she's still happy, and home is where she needs to be with home care. It's the home care system outside, which I work with too, that haven't got the capacity, and they're shouting at us, we haven't got the capacity. And we are trying very hard to make the home care service into a vocation. You know, it's a very, very serious job that they do. It's not just making a cup of tea. It's a vocation, that a job, and it's making that, lifting that job in the community, and that's what we're trying to do at the moment. Instead of thinking of it as a low paid job, which is how it's been visualized over the year. I worked with the health service for 44 years, and I worked with home care and worked in mental health, and it's lifting that into a vocation now and making it as an important job as it is, and it is keeping our residents at home in their homes where they want to be. So I'm with you there all the time. Get them home.
No, very well said, Marion. You know, our primary objective is to help the population we serve live longer, happier, healthier lives. And people want to be at home. They don't want to be in hospital. So we need to make sure that happens in a more joined up way.
Yeah.
And any other final questions from members of the public? Otherwise, I'll draw the meeting to a close. Well, again, I'd like to thank everyone who's been a critical member of the whole George Eliot Trust community. And by that, I mean our frontline teams, those we employ, our volunteers, our friends, those in the wider community who do an awful lot to make the George Eliot what it is. It's been a good year. The board are pushing hard for next year to be an even better year. I can't thank colleagues enough for their hard work, and I look forward to seeing you around this time next year to celebrate another year of progress. But in the meanwhile, take care, everyone. COVID is spiking up again. My counsel would be to wear a mask as a precautionary measure when you are in closed environments. When the next vaccine booster is offered you, take up the opportunity as quickly as possible so that we protect one another and protect loved ones. In the meantime, take care. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye.